We ready? Excellent. So hi everyone, I'm so glad you can all be here for this final session of the day. I know it's been a long day. I'm Dan Galpin. I'm a developer advocate at Google, and I've been working with Android game developers for over 5 years now.
And I'm Markus Nuotto. I'm from Google Play Games business development team.
So we have less than 30 minutes to cram a lot of content into this presentation, so it's going to move really, really quickly. So consider this our greatest hits, or if it was a sitcom, this would be kind of the clip show.
All right, let's get started. There are over 1 billion active Android devices out there with users that want to play. And we've paid a lot of money out in the past year to developers. So there's a big opportunity here. How can you take advantage of it?
So building a great game is the most important thing that you can do. And it's the one thing that we can't tell you here. Ultimately, it's the way to get a lot of users that are happy. But we can give you quality and design guidelines. These guidelines help Android users have a better, more intuitive experience.
The Google Play review team tests for these guidelines as a part of our editorial featuring process. Most of the design guidelines aren't strictly necessary for games, but the most often forgotten one is this, the back button. It has to work in things like dialogues. It is actually also a requirement for getting your game featured. And if it doesn't work, your Android users will get angry.
And it's so easy to handle. All you have to do is look for key code escape, and then do the right thing. If you're only testing on Nexus devices, you might think that immersive mode, which hides the bar with the back and the home key, etc., gets you out of having to support the back key. But remember that a lot of devices do have hardware buttons. Also, interestingly enough, Unity 5 actually turns immersive mode on by default. But you really should only use it during things like heavy action when it's really needed. So you can actually turn it off in scripting by doing screen.fullscreen equals false. Boom, no immersive mode. Users can actually find their back key. Life is happier. Another thing to consider is how you use Android notifications. Unity doesn't provide a standard interface to use Android notifications, hint, hint, but it'd be great if they did. But many games do use them.
The spec has pretty strict guidelines on how they should be used. So you should stack multiple notifications into a single notification object whenever possible. And they should never contain advertising or content that is unrelated to the app's core functions. The editorial board also insists that you use the latest SDK version, and this is very important.
Yeah, now targeting the latest SDK version is actually really important for the platform, because it actually allows us to remove compatibility hacks, and those often hurt performance. And it also allows Android users to see the latest themes when using your app. But this is going to be interesting with M.
Yeah, because this means once we've released Android M devices, you'll have to switch to the new Android permission model, which requires that you prompt the user when accessing personally identifiable data.
And those permissions can be revoked later by the user. So if you've used Android Java Proxy before, you've probably noticed that unhandled exceptions tend to shut things down right quick.
The next important thing to consider is tablets. You'll want to have tablet screenshots in Google Play if you are having tablet content. You'll also want to have tablet-friendly layouts, which means having different on-screen controls if applicable. Ultimately, you're looking for happy customers, and so are we. The core app quality guidelines help our team understand quality, but what really matters is what users think. Google Play can help here too.
Now, hopefully, most of you already use alpha beta testing with stage rollouts. Hands? Have anyone used this feature, alpha beta testing with stage rollouts? It's really, really awesome. Say something if you like it. Come on. Good? Yeah, OK. It allows you to test to make sure your game is just as fun and high quality and compatible as you expect without sacrificing your valuable user rating. And you can test 2 versions of your game at once and have a 3rd version in production. When you're ready to roll things out to production, instead of rolling things all at once, you can stage the rollout to a percentage of your users before rolling it out to the world. And this makes sure that your game is going to be well loved before it impacts your rating.
And speaking of ratings, if you do get that occasional bad review, respond to it. It makes a world of difference to consumer confidence. So, now you've got a game with great reviews that meets the minimum criteria to be featured on Google Play. And that's a great start. Many games never get this far. When browsing on Google Play, users get to see the application icon, a small part of the name of the application, the publisher name, user rating, and cost to download. Most of the space, however, is dominated by the icon asset. So it means that these icons are the single most important marketing tool you have on Google Play. It's worth investing to make your store icon great.
And once again, Google Play can actually help you with this. Thanks to store listing experiments, you can actually test variants, such as different icons, to see which gets the most downloads. Now, you might think, how much can this really help?
Well, actually, for example, Congregate saw a double-digit increase in installs after their experiment. Other large developers used to have to pay big money for market research to do this, this sort of thing, but now it's just part of Google Play.
All right, so we've gotten pretty far. We've gotten some users. They're happy with the game, and they're rating the game highly. But now that we have them, we have to keep them. As you might expect, Google Play Game Services has something that can help. Of course, you remember Play Game Services. So, they contain stuff like achievements, leaderboards, cloud save, real-time, turn-based multiplayer, quests with player analytics. How many people here have played games with Play Games? All right, so it's pretty well used. So to better understand the mission of Play Games, let's talk about Eric Fromling. Now, he's a developer, and he's a one-man army behind the awesome multiplayer Battler Bomb Squad. And like all great developers, he has a passion for awesome player experiences. And we wanted to help leverage that passion to create a sustainable, successful business, which means that the freemium game he's written needs to be thought of as a service he's delivering to players.
Now, developers that manage games as a service have to master 5 things: acquiring players, managing targets, identifying hotspots where the title isn't performing as desired, having a deep understanding of what's working and what's not working for players, and dynamically making changes, continuously delivering new content. If you're looking at bigger studios, the structure can typically look something like this. There are still game programmers, artists, level designers, etc. But there are also data scientists that focus on analytics, a big live operations team, and marketing and UA specialists.
Our mission is to bridge the gap between the large studios and the small army of people that it takes to run games as a service, and indie developers like Eric that only have the resources to focus on great gameplay, sort of democratizing things. Today, Play Games provides services across the board, from pre-registration, which helps with user acquisition, business management tools such as player analytics, to our suite of game services, of course, achievements, leaderboards, multiplayer, that keep players engaged, as well as allow developers to add new goals without updating the game, and things like quests. These services have had a major impact on developers, and here are just a couple of examples. Well, let's start with player analytics, which delivers reports to our developer console. We announced them earlier this year at GDC. Throughout development, we actually worked really closely with Eric, creating prototypes and iterating to come up with a valuable set of analytics to give us a deeper understanding of Bomb Squad's in-game economy. And this led to the creation of our first report, Sources and Sinks, which explores the relationship between the production and the consumption of in-game currency.
So in Bomb Squad's case, the currency is tickets. We discovered that the game was giving away tickets at a higher rate than players could use them. With that information, Eric implemented changes that brought his economy back into balance. After he made those changes, the impact could be seen immediately in Sources and Sinks report. After a few weeks, his revenue per daily active user more than doubled, and his revenue per paying user rose close to 70%.
So in Eric's own words, player analytics has helped me to home in on Bomb Squad's shortcomings, right the ship, and get to a point where I can financially justify making the games I want to make.
And just in case you thought that Eric's case was a fluke, Underwater Apps also got similar results. It's really important to know your virtual economy.
And what we launched at GDC is just the start. We're continuing to invest in new reports, understanding new player segments, and adding new metrics to make player analytics a more powerful tool for developers.
Even then, just getting the analysis isn't enough. We need to encourage players to come back. We introduced quests last year as a way to dynamically deliver new content without requiring developers to make updates in the game.
So quests are a set of APIs to run time-based goals for players. Okay, and here's how it works. To do this, a developer sends game activity, which we call events, to the quest service whenever a player does something awesome, like winning a level, killing an alien, saving a rare black sheep. And this tells quests what's going on in the game. And developers can use that game activity to create new quests on the server. And by running these quests, which are like game events, on a regular basis, developers can create an unlimited number of new player experience that drive re-engagement and retention. So let's explain. Since that's a little confusing, mostly because of terminology, let me go through the flow. Okay, you start by creating events in your in-game activity, like every time a player discovers a treasure in your pirate game. And then you integrate events into your game, and you create a quest listener that can listen for various things that can come in from our server saying, hey, this quest is over and you got this item. Sign-in players then start sending signals of these events' game activities. You then monitor these events in the Play Developer console. And let's say you see that many players love discovering hidden treasure every day. You can then define a quest or a time-based goal using treasures found as the criteria. For example, it could be a find 50 treasures this weekend quest for all your players, and you publish it. In the game itself, you query outstanding quests, and you ask players to accept the treasure hunt quest that you just created on the server. We aggregate each player's activity for you and start counting the treasures they find from the events. When a player meets the criteria, then the quest service notifies your game with a unique return code, so you can map a congratulatory reward experience for those users. And the best part is, since these events are always being sent to the service, and your quest responder is already set up, you can create new quests without actually having to update the game.
So another good example is Concrete Software that has been making mobile games for over a decade. While they've seen great success, they're still a small company. So every minute they spend on server infrastructure, server-side code, hosting, or maintenance is a minute they could be spending on the thing they are more passionate about, making games. And this is where game services comes in, and quests in particular. Concrete has an exemplary quest implementation in their flagship title, PBA Bowling Challenge, which you can see here. They implement our best practices to a T. Quests have become an integral part of their live operations strategy. To help understand the degree to which they've incorporated quests, let's examine their calendar of promotions from earlier in the year. As you can see here, Concrete launches new content multiple times a week to keep players engaged. Quests play a critical role in each of these launches. For example, on January 7, Concrete added a new bowling ball, the Hammer Black Widow Legend. Along with that, they ran an ad, promoted the content in social platforms, used push notifications, and created a quest to support the new content. The reason they made quests integral to their live operations is because they see a measurable material impact to player engagement. They found users played close to 15% more sessions, and that impact is also sticky. They observed close to 4% more sessions in the days following the quest completion.
Now, quests are just the start of our live operations strategy. We'll continue to invest in tools, support dynamic content updates which make your game feel more alive and more engaging. Tools that allow you to respond to changing player needs. Tools that allow you to create more personalized and fun user experiences tailored for every player. And all of this is free to anyone that integrates game services on both iOS and Android. Making a successful game is a lot of work, but integrating Play Games actually is a really great step towards success.
But you want to hear about the new stuff. Firstly, we've done some serious updates on both the C++ and the iOS SDK. On iOS particularly, we've dramatically improved the user experience of sign-in by taking advantage of other signed-in Google apps and falling back to a web view so you never get kicked out of the game and into a web browser.
We're really excited about this report here, which is our Time Series Explorer, which, to our knowledge, is the first of its kind. It's a report that helps you understand what players are doing at critical moments of your game. If you've ever wondered what happens in the first few minutes of gameplay, just before your players spend for the first time, or just before players stop playing, the Time Series Explorer is the report for you. And here's how it works. Every day, we take thousands of samples of what we call player time series, which just tracks, again, these events that we talked about earlier that are associated with quests. Okay? Other things like getting achievements. And we make those available to you through this report. And then you can hover icons to get information about the event. So we also do things like in-app purchases. And then you can show these detailed time series for common critical moments, like when did this person stop playing? And you can actually look to see what kind of events preceded that. And so you can help to tune your game. Maybe this thing is too hard. Maybe it's just too frustrating. Maybe it's actually that it's just boring. And you can figure out exactly how to keep your players excited and motivated. In the events here, you can even create custom reports to compare events. And what's really cool is that this isn't just an analytics platform, but it's actually going to be available to your game using the new Player Stats API. So here's how you might want to use that API to welcome back a high-value player that hasn't played in a while. 10 coins! And here's how you might opt to not show a video ad to a highly monetizing player. So again, these statistics are not only available for you on the dashboard, they're actually available for your app, so you can actually tune the experience. So we have 6 statistics available in the initial release of the API, which will be available very, very soon. And there's a couple of other things we've already launched that are really cool. One of the biggest complaints people had about quests was, wow, it takes a lot of time just to manage these quests. We wanted to make it easier on people, so you can now actually take a quest and copy it. And once you've copied it, you can actually make it repeat. So if you want to have, every, third week, et cetera, this happened for a period of time, you can actually have those events be regular occurrences without you having to do any management whatsoever on the Google Play Developer Console. And this is important for people to know, but we actually do have a properly supported Unity plugin that we are working on tirelessly. And here's where you can find it. It's located in this GitHub repository here.
All right, switching gears. With a relatively small amount of curated content in the Google Play TV Play Store and a lot of attention from our Play editorial team, building for TV is definitely a way to get noticed. We launched Android TV at Google I/O in June of last year, allowing game developers to leverage their mobile investment on Android to bring content to the living room. Unity has supported Android TV directly since launch, so it's really easy to bring content over.
Bringing a Unity game to Android TV is really straightforward. In most cases, a purely incremental development effort. Not only will Unity apps work great on TV, but your middleware will generally work as well, because it's just stock Android, including NDK, SDK, OpenGLES, et cetera. The Play Store continues to provide app distribution and promotion capabilities to you, and we have TV-specific user interface guidelines, along with hardware accessory standards for things like game controllers.
This year, we see the ecosystem growing as OEMs bring Android TV to the world in the form of smart TVs, over-the-top boxes, and micro consoles and pay TV set-top boxes, all sharing the same operating system and experience. A unique phenomenon in the history of the living room.
Now, some things to consider. All Android TV devices are guaranteed to have a controller that at least has these buttons. And it's important for games to support these, especially in menus, even if they actually require a gamepad to play. But here are all the Unity buttons that actually map to this controller. And of course, remember the back button is important. It's escape. Now, you aren't necessarily guaranteed to get these buttons. However, because if the user actually does have a gamepad, those D-pad values will actually get mapped as hat switch values. So just one thing to note, regardless of whether or not you actually require a controller, you should make sure that you also support those hat switch values so that you can work with either a simple remote or a game controller. And fortunately, the center button of that controller actually maps to button A, so you're pretty good there. There's a pretty good sample out that our partners over in NVIDIA put out on how to do gamepads in Unity on Android, and so that's a pretty nice sample. And there's one weird thing you should know. If your game does require a gamepad, it won't work with a simple remote. You can put this declaration into your manifest to say to Google Play that you want a game to be badged as requiring a gamepad. I know this makes no sense, but that is actually what you use. And because it makes no sense, I figure I should tell you. One thing you should also do is watch out for middleware. This is not just on Android TV, but in general, because middleware can actually modify your manifest, and they can ask for permissions on your behalf. Unity plugins at least can. And unfortunately, these permissions also can imply features for the purpose of Google Play filtering and can get you filtered off of TV. So you need to look at the generated Android manifest.xml and make sure you don't find unexpected permissions there. And Unity 5 nicely puts this in the temp directory under the staging area, so it's very easy to find. See, does this have what I expect? If you're getting filtered out, it's probably because of one of these things. And you can fix this problem by explicitly telling Android that you don't want to require the feature. And Unity's pretty cool with this. You can actually make a customized Android manifest file under the project root assets plugins Android folder, and Unity will merge the changes in that manifest with the ones that Unity generates. So, blah, just put that in. Now we no longer require the camera. You can put it in that file. So I'd like to talk to you about something we're doing to make the second screen experience a little more seamless. This is the Nearby Connections API. And with this new protocol, games can seamlessly connect smartphones and tablets to games running on the TV in front of you. And the protocol simply allows the instances of your game running phones, tablets, and TVs to find each other on the same Wi-Fi network. We create a peer-to-peer connection so they can communicate with each other. And this is really cool because people don't always have controllers with their TVs. And unlike the other services in Play games, users don't actually need to be signed in to take advantage of it. Now, we have this really, really cool video that I was going to show you, but we're running low on time. So basically, just to get you a little clue of what's going on here.
Team, and we're going to be playing a
multiplayer
multiplayer game of Beach Buggy Racing. But we only have one controller and a whole bunch of Android phones. So Ben, how are we going to make this work?
So fortunately, the developer of Beach Buggy Racing Vector Unit has implemented something called the Nearby Connections API. That allows us to connect our Android devices to the Android TV and use them as controllers.
And it's broadcasting a signal behind the scenes saying, hey, all the phones nearby, I'm available to connect. And now the race begins.
All right, we don't have time for that, but it's pretty cool.
So that's two more things you can do to help your game stand out. Android TV and Nearby Connections, bringing people together across multiple devices. But now, let's talk a bit about Cardboard VR. Cardboard really is VR for everyone.
A low barrier to entry means that more people can experience VR. And this video was actually done by Volvo. And they actually gave away these cardboard viewers and changed the way people shop for cars. And again, that's what's great about having an accessible platform like this.
Also, Thomas Cook used cardboard to show people the sights of places they dream to go.
Comme ceci. Et vous allez pouvoir...
Génial.
And of course, we're really excited about the partnership we have with Viewmaster to get more cardboard devices out to the masses. You don't have to take our word for it, though. It really is a platform for the masses. Our cardboard application has been downloaded over 1 million times. And let's look at an example of just the kinds of things, the experiences that we're creating. This is a movie of the Maps app you probably have on your phone. And as you can see, we're looking at Notre Dame here. And if we click, of course, on the little Street View button, it'll go into this nice mode where we can go and see this experience. But what most people don't know is that we've actually also made this available for cardboard.
And what is even cooler is that if you tap twice, there's an Easter egg. You get directly into 3D mode, and you can start using your cardboard. This is pretty mind-blowing if you think about it. The best part is we already have a great ecosystem for you to use to publish your content in Google Play. Our team is looking for the next great cardboard game or app to promote, and we have a place to do it.
So here's where we can get all sorts of information about the Cardboard plugin for Unity. And I'm going to put all these plugins up at the end of the lecture, so don't worry about it. One last indulgence is we actually acquired a company called Firebase in October of last year because we knew it was awesome because we were already one of the big customers with the Nest platform. And in addition to Nest, it's used by all sorts of big developers to run scalable services. And what it is a real-time NoSQL database. And it returns JSON from a RESTful API. And it also has this real-time data layer that transmits updates to listening clients that scales to very, very large numbers of simultaneous clients per server instance. What's great about it, though, is it's super easy to use. Basically, storing data is kind of like that. All the clients actually sync supporting offload mode, which is cool. So you basically don't have to worry about going through a tunnel and suddenly having your connection die. It'll actually save any transactions and sync them back up to our server. And you can also use it to build totally offline experiences. It has built-in auth, and our security is tied to that. and it's a hosted solution. So again, I wanted to mention this. I've actually got a little demo of this. I don't have time to show it to you, sadly. But if you do go to this particular link, you can actually see a full Unity integration that uses the same API on both iOS and Android to talk to our database.
All right, in conclusion, we talked about keeping your users happy with best practices for Google Play.
How Android TV can help you leverage your mobile investment for the living room.
We introduced player analytics to make it easy to help you understand how your games are making money or not making money.
To make building multi-screen games simple, we created the Nearby API. And we also talked about how Firebase could be the backend for massively multiplayer real-time experiences.
And we encourage you to take things to the next level by coming up with an experience for Cardboard VR.
All right, we get this all the time. I have an awesome game. It has over a 4.0 rating on Google Play. It's optimized for phones and tablets. It's on Android TV. It integrates play game services, leaderboards, achievements, quests, and multiplayer, and I want to get featured. How do I reach you guys?
Well, you are in luck. So now for the first time, you have a way to reach us directly. Please go to the link here and submit your information.
So that is very cool. And this is the first time we've ever given this out at a conference, so I'm very excited about this. So thank you so much. Again, these are a whole bunch of projects we do around Unity. And once again, I'm Dan Galpin, developer advocate on Android. And
I'm Markus Nuotto. I'm working at the game's business development team.
So thank you very much.
Thanks.
So I don't know if we have a few minutes for questions, if that's all right. Yeah. Yeah, I can put the Firebase link back up too if people want that, because that's not a named link. I didn't have it there, but you want to take a look at it. It's pretty cool stuff. They've done a really Ben, who's the developer on that, has done a wonderful job of making that a cross-platform API that's very easy to access from Unity. If you want, I could even show you a sample of how it works. Any other questions?
Everybody wants to get to the party.
I
Oh,
didn't understand.
Yeah.
Did you say that if a game doesn't allow notifications, it's not going to be featured in Google Play?
No. So basically, if you use notifications wrong, so like one example is you make really, really spammy notifications. You put like 5 of them up at a time, and it interferes with other applications. Then the team is going to be like, oh God, that's terrible user experience. We don't want that to be featured. That kind of thing is what they get most upset. Or if you're using it to run ads, that's a serious no-no. That's the kind of thing actually that they actually take action on. So.
yeah. So a great resource is to go to android.developer.com. We have a lot of documentation on these, like best practices and things, what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, those quality guidelines actually include a complete set of QA tests that you can actually just hand to your QA team and be like, hey, run through this, or yourself go through them and make sure that you are doing all the best things. And there's also, in addition to that, there's also policy stuff you should look at too, especially because those are really about quality, but there's also a whole other series of things around making sure that you're not doing things that Google Play doesn't like. So if you do download the Firebase app, you'll see something like this. And you can see it actually will communicate in real time. I actually have an iOS thing going, and it's kind of fun. And if I could actually see it, maybe I could start this. Playing already, yeah. So you can see as I'm firing, it's actually sending these shots all the way through Firebase back to me, and that's what's actually doing the movement. And if it actually works, in theory, let's see, we'll try it. I have my iOS simulator has been failing me, mostly because it decides that there's no network. Yeah, the iOS simulator has decided there's no network again. It's amazing when you have no network connectivity. It's very difficult to have a network game going on. Let me try this. I'll do this one more time just to see if this works. I'll reset content. I'll reinstall. We'll see if I get lucky. But
Any other questions?
yeah, if any other questions, please. This is. All right. No, it just does not have any network connectivity. So the demo wouldn't have worked anyways, guys. But it's actually pretty cool stuff. The simulator is definitely a beast, that's for sure.
Oh, we have a question.
Oh, question? Yeah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and you just didn't implement every guideline, like as best textbook approach, but you fixed those, can you still get feature?
Yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we are prioritizing usually new content, but definitely we are looking into also existing content that is great,
Yeah.
great entertainment value.
And also, especially if you haven't been featured before, that's also a real sign. Like, hey, we've missed out. And you guys are doing really well. It's definitely something we want to see.
Is there a way you can just flag it in the developer console that it's not featureable, and then maybe have a why?
Not really. Usually,
Yeah.
usually
The best we call that beta.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way you flag it, is you leave it in beta if it's not featureable. Hopefully, you haven't released it.
usually the featuring process works such that you will know if we are about to feature you, so
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
will
and-
get notified anyways.
Exactly. But yeah, in general, like, if it's not featureable, don't publish it if you can possibly avoid it. Leave it in beta.
Is the Gears Tags API part of Google Analytics or?
No, so this is all part of Google Play Games, which is game services. So it's not actually part of Google Analytics. We actually do have a whole series of things in Google Analytics I didn't even talk about. There's something called Tag Manager, and there's a whole bunch of really cool functionality there. We also have a Unity plugin, which I did put up there at the end for analytics. All that stuff that I showed you is just part of the Google Play Game service, which is available on Android and iOS.
Is the top developer badge kind of a shortcut for being featured?
No. It's just like an additional quality or qualifier that we're giving to some of the game developers. But I can give you this hint that if you are actually implementing all of the stuff that we're telling that are best practices, you will most likely get the top developer badge sooner or later. But it is a separate thing than featuring.
Anything else? Any problems people have had with Unity and Android? Want to talk about it? No? All right.
Right?
Well, thank you so much for coming. We'll be around for a little while if you want to talk to us afterwards. And have a great rest of your Unite. And enjoy drinks.
Thank you.